Welcome to the Spiritual Awakening Path. Today I want to dive into a topic that so many people quietly struggle with, but rarely speak out loud. Why you lose motivation after spiritual awakening, the hidden truth. Maybe you felt it yourself. You wake up one day and realize the things that used to drive you no longer light that fire inside. You wonder, what's wrong with me? Am I broken? But here's the truth. You're not broken at all. In fact, this loss of motivation could be one of the clearest signs that something much deeper, much more beautiful is unfolding within you. Have you ever woken up one morning, looked in the mirror and felt you're no longer the same person? Not that you've completely changed, but the version of you who used to have goals, ambitions, and always knew what to do next suddenly seems to have disappeared. And there you are, sitting in a familiar room, inside a life that looks the same on the outside, yet a strange emptiness has taken over. This stage is often called the void. It's like moving out of an old house, but the new one isn't built yet. You're standing between two worlds, no longer belonging to the old, but not fully stepping into the new. And I know this can feel unsettling, because we've been raised in a society that constantly tells us we must keep moving forward, stay busy, know exactly who we are, what we're doing, and where we're headed. But have you ever asked yourself, if I am no longer those roles I once played, no longer the successful one, the parent carrying all the responsibilities, the partner holding everything together, then who am I? That question echoes in the void, and for many, it feels terrifying. In over 20 years of guiding people through spiritual awakening, I've learned something important. The void is not a loss, it's a transformation. It's like a seed buried deep in the soil. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, just darkness, coldness, and stillness. But inside, new life is quietly preparing to emerge. The problem is, we often get impatient. We panic when we don't see results right away, and we assume something has gone wrong. I remember a woman who once shared her story with me. She had just turned 60 and had gone through a major life shift that pushed her onto her spiritual path. She told me, I used to be so busy, always caring for my kids, my work, my friends. But after awakening, I didn't want to do anything anymore. I would just sit for hours by the window, not interested in the things that once excited me. She feared she was fading away. But when she allowed herself to simply be in that space, she discovered a stillness, a peace that she had never experienced before. You see, the void is really an invitation to pause, to let go of the old self without rushing to create a new one. It teaches us patience. Even neuroscience today shows that after major changes, the brain needs time to rewire itself. And in that time, stillness is one of the most powerful medicines. So if you find yourself in the void, don't assume you're broken or useless. Think of it instead as a stage of rebirth. Picture yourself inside a cocoon. The old caterpillar has dissolved and the butterfly has not yet appeared. The only thing you need to do is trust the process. Trust that even in the darkness, new life is quietly preparing to unfold. And one morning, you'll realize the emptiness is gone. Instead, you'll feel a gentle flow, a new calling, one that doesn't come from pressure or fear, but from a deep, unshakable peace. That's the moment you'll step out of the void, not to become someone else, but to finally come home to yourself. Have you ever wondered, why is it that after I started diving deeper into myself, into spirituality, all of my old motivation just disappeared? Maybe before you were full of energy, always with a plan, a goal, always knowing exactly what you needed to achieve next year. And then, after a spiritual turning point, it's like all of that just vanished. You sit there and think, what's wrong with me? Am I just being lazy? Or maybe I'm falling into depression. Let me be very clear. This is not a breakdown. This is a natural part of the awakening journey. Here's why. Before awakening, our motivation usually comes from one very familiar source, the ego. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Most of us were raised in a society that told us from a very young age, you need to become somebody, you need to succeed, you need to make people proud. All of that teaching pointed us in one direction, proving our worth through achievement. But here's the truth. That kind of motivation is almost always fueled by fear. Fear of failure, fear of being abandoned, fear of not being loved, fear of not being enough. Over the past 2 decades, I've sat with hundreds, even thousands of people. And when they really opened up, what I found behind the big goals and shiny dreams was often a very deep fear. And then awakening happens. Suddenly, the light of awareness shines directly on those fears. You begin to see that your old drive wasn't coming from joy, love, or natural creativity, but often from trying to fill an inner emptiness. I remember speaking with a man in his 50s who had spent his whole life devoted to his career. He told me, "I always thought I loved this work, but when I stepped onto the spiritual path, I realized I was only doing it so I wouldn't feel useless. And when that truth hit me, all my motivation just collapsed." Do you see? That collapse wasn't the end. It was the illusion falling away. The old motivation is like a fire fueled by toxic fuel. It burns hot, but it also burns you out. And when that fire finally dies, yes, at first it feels empty. It feels scary. But in truth, that emptiness is just clean soil, waiting for a new seed to be planted. And that seed is a different kind of motivation, one that grows out of love, peace, and intuition. So if you find yourself sitting here today, no longer excited about your old goals, please remember this. You are not broken. You are transforming. The old ego-driven engine is shutting down. And in its place, a truer, healthier drive will slowly begin to emerge. And maybe for the first time in your life, you'll notice something beautiful. You're no longer doing things to prove anything. You're doing them simply because they feel right to your heart. Something fascinating happens when you let go of your old sense of motivation. At first, it may feel like you've lost everything, like a boat without a harbor. But over time, as you begin to accept the silence, a new door slowly opens. And behind that door is a deeper realization. You're no longer just a small, isolated self struggling against the world. You begin to see that you're part of something much greater, the flow of life itself. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a river. Every drop of water seems separate, yet no drop is ever truly alone. It's always carried by the current, always connected to countless other drops, all moving together toward the ocean. After awakening, you become like that drop. You no longer need to push yourself forward or prove you're strong enough to swim against the current. Instead, you begin to let the river of life carry you. And the feeling is completely different. It's not the restless drive of the ego, but a steady, gentle pull, like the rhythm of a heartbeat deep inside you. You stop asking, "What will I gain from this?" and begin to ask, "How does life want to move through me?" I once spoke with a man in his mid-60s who had been a very successful businessman. His entire life had been about planning, controlling, and hitting goals. But after a personal crisis and a spiritual awakening, he told me something that stayed with me. For the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm the one rowing the boat. I just let go of the oars, and to my surprise, the boat still moves, more smoothly, more safely, and more in the right direction than ever before. Even modern science is beginning to confirm this. When people enter deep states of connection, through meditation, prayer, or even moments of quiet presence, the brain shifts into alpha and theta waves. These are the states where we feel deeply connected to something larger than ourselves. Many describe it as a sense of melting into everything. And from that place, a new energy emerges, the energy of oneness. So if you're feeling like your old motivation has disappeared, see it as a gift. Without the ego pulling you in every direction, you now have the chance to listen to the flow of life itself. You'll start to realize you're not alone. The things you do, even the simplest ones like tending a garden, writing a letter, or listening to a friend, suddenly carry a deeper meaning. You no longer do them to prove your worth, but because you understand you are a heartbeat of the universe itself. And in that connection, a new kind of motivation, gentle yet unshakable, will begin to carry you forward every single day. After spending some time in the empty space, when the old fire of the ego has burned out, you begin to notice something very different. It's not loud, it's not intense, it doesn't push you with a voice saying, "Keep going," like before. Instead, it feels more like a soft breeze brushing against your soul, whispering, "Go this way." This new kind of motivation doesn't come from ambition, and it doesn't come from fear. It rises out of peace and intuition. You no longer act because you're afraid of being left behind, afraid of being judged, or afraid of not being enough. Now you act simply because it feels true, it feels right, and most of all, because your heart is full of love. I once heard an older man, well into his 70s, share his story with me. He had lived his whole life like a warrior, working hard, building a career, taking care of his family. But after a deep spiritual crisis, he stepped into awakening. He told me, "Back then I worked out of fear. Fear of not having enough money. Fear my kids wouldn't have a future. Fear of becoming useless. Now I still work, but it's completely different. Every morning I paint, not to sell, not to show off, just because when I hold a brush, I feel peace in my soul." That's what this new motivation looks like. It doesn't need a grand purpose. It doesn't need recognition. It only needs honesty. When this motivation shows up, you'll feel the difference immediately. It doesn't pressure you. It invites you. It doesn't burn you out. It nourishes you. It doesn't drain your energy. It sustains you with a steady, gentle strength. This is the energy that comes from living in harmony with yourself and with life. Modern neuroscience even supports this. When we act from love and joy, our brains release oxytocin and serotonin, the feel-good chemicals that calm the body, boost the immune system, and sharpen the mind. It's proof that when you live from this new motivation, both your body and your spirit begin to heal. So I want you to ask yourself, if you didn't have to prove anything, if you didn't need to achieve anything to feel worthy, what would you want to do today? Maybe it's tending to your garden. Maybe it's calling an old friend. Maybe it's jotting a few lines in your journal. Or maybe it's simply sitting quietly, listening to the birds outside your window. These little things, when done with presence, open up an endless well of vitality. This new motivation doesn't require you to map out a 5-year plan. It only asks you to show up right here, right now. From this place, each small action will naturally flow, like a stream weaving its way through the rocks, without force, without calculation. So if today you can't find the old motivation you used to rely on, don't worry. Just listen for the gentlest whispers of your heart. That's the voice of a new energy calling you, an energy born from life itself, from love, and from your truest self. One of the most profound moments on the journey of awakening is when you suddenly realize, I don't need to become anyone else. I am already enough. From the moment we were born, society taught us that the purpose of life was out there, in careers, achievements, titles, and the approval of others. We chase after those things, believing that one day, once we make it, we'll finally feel happy and worthy. But eventually you discover there's no finish line out there at all. You are the purpose. I want you to picture this. Imagine a garden. Roses don't bloom for applause. Grass doesn't grow to be praised. Birds don't sing for recognition. Everything in that garden simply is, and that alone makes it beautiful and complete. The same is true for us. You don't need to prove you deserve to exist. Your very existence is already part of life's perfection. Awakening helps you see this clearly, that your presence, whether you're sitting quietly, smiling, or offering love, is already a gift to the world. You don't need to do more to have value. Your value is right here, in your being. I remember a woman in her 60s once confided in me. Her entire life had been about responsibility, raising kids, supporting her husband, working nonstop. When she retired, she fell into a crisis, convinced she no longer had a purpose. But as she stepped into her awakening, she realized something powerful. Just sitting by the window each morning, sipping tea, breathing deeply, and being present was already a complete life. She told me, for the first time I feel enough, even when I'm doing nothing. Have you ever felt that? That in the simplest moments, happiness just arises on its own? That when you stop trying to prove yourself, life actually feels lighter? The beautiful truth is, when you stop chasing goals out there, your life doesn't stall. It actually becomes richer. You stop asking, what do I need to achieve to matter? And instead begin asking, how can I live true to myself today? And suddenly the ordinary, cooking a meal, chatting with a loved one, walking at sunset becomes sacred. Modern psychology even confirms this. People who find meaning simply in their own presence tend to have stronger mental health, less anxiety, less depression, and even longer lifespans. This isn't just a beautiful philosophy, it's a truth that lives in your very cells. So if you ever find yourself asking, what's my purpose in life? Pause, breathe, and listen. You don't have to look any further. You are the answer. You are the purpose. One of the hardest, but also the most important, lessons on the path of awakening is learning how to trust the process. We're so used to being in control, controlling our work, our schedules, even the direction of our lives. We grow up believing that if we don't make things happen, then nothing will. But during awakening, something shifts. Suddenly, the old pace no longer fits. The packed schedules, the endless goals, the constant hustle, they don't light you up anymore. Instead of feeling free, though, you might start to panic. If I let go, will my life fall apart? Picture this. You're sitting in a small boat on a river. If you paddle against the current, you'll exhaust yourself. But if you set the oars down, the boat doesn't lose its way. The river carries it forward, and the river always knows where it's going. Life is the same. The universe, or the flow of existence if you prefer, already holds the wisdom to guide you. When you learn to trust, you realize you were never lost to begin with. I once spoke with a man in his 70s who shared something profound. After retiring, he felt empty without work to anchor him. He tried to fill the void with clubs, projects, endless activities, but the more he tried, the more drained he became. Until one day he stopped. He allowed himself to simply slow down, to take walks, watch the sky, tend to his small garden, and in that stillness, joy quietly returned. He told me, I realized I don't have to create meaning. I just have to allow meaning to show up. Have you ever felt that? Those moments when you stop trying to force things and somehow everything just falls into place? A random phone call, a chance encounter, an unexpected opportunity, and suddenly you see that life was orchestrating the path for you all along. Even modern psychology supports this. When we loosen our grip on control, stress levels drop, the immune system strengthens, and the brain becomes more open to creativity. In other words, slowing down and trusting doesn't make you weaker. It actually unlocks a different kind of strength, the power of working with the flow of life instead of against it. Trusting the process doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means showing up, doing your part with honesty and an open heart, and then allowing the universe to do its part. Like planting a seed, you water it, you care for it, but you can't force it to sprout faster. You have to trust its natural rhythm and timing. So if you're feeling lost right now, don't rush to panic or force yourself back into old routines. Set the oars down for a while. Let the river carry you. You'll be surprised at the shores life will take you to, places your mind could never have planned. And remember this, you're not walking alone. There is a greater wisdom guiding you, step by step, breath by breath. Your only task is to trust the process. When you walk through the journey of awakening, there will be days when your mind still feels foggy. What should I do now? Which path should I choose? And in those moments, the best thing you can do isn't to create a grand plan, but to return to whatever brings peace to your soul. We often think answers must come from something big, a life-changing trip, a major decision, or a fateful encounter. But in truth, the answers usually come from the simplest moments. A morning when you open the door and let the sunlight touch your skin. An afternoon when you sit down and write a few lines about what's happening inside your heart. Or an evening when you simply listen to someone you love. Think back for a moment. How many times in your life have the smallest things held the greatest healing power? Maybe it was a warm cup of tea handed to you when you were exhausted, or a short, unexpected conversation that sparked a new sense of hope. When we choose peace, those small, ordinary moments quietly nourish the heart, day by day. Neuroscience now shows us that these simple experiences of calm, like walking in nature, deep breathing, or journaling, actually lower cortisol, the stress hormone in the body. That doesn't just improve your mood, it also helps your brain think more clearly. So choosing peace isn't avoiding life. It's actually one of the smartest ways to renew your energy. A close friend of mine once shared her story after going through a deep spiritual crisis. She said she no longer searched for the big breakthroughs. Instead, she started listening to the rhythm of her own heart. Some days her motivation was simply cooking a nourishing meal or sitting at the park watching children play. And slowly from those little things, a new vitality began to awaken in her, gentle but steady. I know many people in their 50s, 60s, or even 70s sometimes wonder, am I too late? Am I moving too slowly? What I want to tell you is this. It's never too late to live in peace. And sometimes, slowing down is actually the fastest way to find yourself again. So in this season of your life, don't pressure yourself to find a big purpose right away. Instead, start by asking, what brings me ease today? Maybe it's writing a page in your journal. Maybe it's walking your dog. Maybe it's simply hearing the voice of someone you love on the phone, and you'll begin to see those small things become the golden threads that guide you out of the fog and into a wider, more open life. Remember this, your spiritual journey isn't measured by how many leaps you take. It's measured by how much peace your heart feels in each moment. And peace is something you can touch, starting right now. You know, one of the things many people worry about after going through a spiritual awakening is this unsettling sense of losing motivation. They often whisper to me, I don't feel like doing the things I used to love anymore. Is something wrong with me? I want you to take a deep breath and really let this in. Losing motivation isn't a breakdown. It's actually a sign of deep transformation. Think of it like winter. The trees let go of their leaves, and on the surface it looks like they're dead. But in truth, they're quietly preparing for a brand new spring. That empty space you're afraid of, the feeling of, I don't know what to do next, it's not a curse, it's a blessing in disguise. It's the space where your true essence is beginning to speak. The only reason you can't hear it clearly yet is because you've been so used to the noise of your old life. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine living in the same house for years. Every room is stuffed with furniture, some of it useful, but a lot of it just piled up out of habit. Then one day you decide to clear it all out. For a while the rooms feel empty, maybe even unsettling, but it's only in that emptiness that you finally have the chance to rearrange, to create space for what really matters. Your old motivation, the one built on ego, on fear of being left behind, or the need to prove yourself, no longer fits here. It has to fall away. And in its place, a new energy will begin to emerge. But here's the key. For it to arrive, you have to welcome the silence. Like a piece of music, it's the pause that makes the melody whole. In psychology, there's even a name for this. The liminal stage. The threshold space. You're no longer the old self, but you're not fully the new self yet either. Studies show this is when the brain rewires itself most powerfully, like a caterpillar dissolving inside its cocoon. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening, but inside, an entire rebirth is taking place. I remember one of my students going through this exact stage. She had been a successful businesswoman, always driven, always chasing the next achievement. After her awakening, she confessed to me, I don't feel excited about anything anymore. I'm scared I might be depressed. But instead of fighting it, she learned to sit with the quiet, writing in her journal, walking beneath the trees. A year later, she found joy again, but this time it wasn't about proving herself to the world. It was about serving her community, straight from the heart. So if you find yourself in this in-between space, please don't rush to label it as something's wrong. See it for what it truly is, a gift. A pause where the universe is whispering, rest now, I'm rearranging things for you. Because here's the truth, the emptiness you're feeling is the very soil where new seeds are planted. And from what looks like lost motivation, a truer, gentler, and everlasting kind of life force will begin to grow. My friend, the path of awakening isn't a straight line, nor is it a race to get somewhere faster than anyone else. It's more like a river, sometimes rushing, sometimes still, and at times spreading wide into a quiet lake that feels motionless. But here's the secret. It's in that very stillness that the deepest transformations are happening. If you're feeling lost right now, let me remind you, you are not off track. Every moment you're living, whether it feels empty, silent, or unclear, is still a perfect part of the journey. In the past, maybe your motivation came from chasing things outside yourself, success, recognition, the constant busyness of life. But as those layers fall away, you begin to see a simple truth. You were always the purpose. You don't need to arrive anywhere else to be worthy. Your presence, your love, your being, just showing up fully here and now, is already a priceless gift to this world. I want you to try something with me. Place your hand over your heart right now and whisper these words, I am enough. I am being guided. If you allow yourself to feel it, a peace will open within you, one that no outside achievement could ever give. And remember, this journey isn't only yours. There are thousands, even millions of others walking a similar path. When you share your experience, you don't just find connection, you become a light for someone else who might still be stumbling in the dark. So if today's message touched your heart, I invite you to share your story in the comments. Tell me, where are you on your journey? Have you ever felt that emptiness or loss of motivation that I spoke about? I would love to hear from you, and I know this community will find healing in your words too. And don't forget to hit the like button if this resonated, and subscribe so we can continue walking this path together. Every week, I share new videos to help you go deeper into your awakening, always with gentleness, understanding, and practical wisdom you can carry into daily life. You are never alone, and remember this: the emptiness you fear may be the very soil where your most sacred seeds are beginning to grow. I'll see you in the next video.